Welcome back to the First and Gold podcast. I'm your host, Sam Gold, and today is a very special video. We got the 2025 NFL mock draft. We're about a week out from the actual first night of the draft, so I figured it was the perfect time to finally give my 2 cents on who I think is going in this first round. And listen, I'm not going to go crazy with it, so before we get through everything, here's the disclaimer. I'm not doing any trades this time around. It's going to be a full 1 through 32. So whoever's set in their spot, that's where I'm having them draft. Yes, I know obviously there's going to be some trades in real life when it happens next week, but I thought it would just be an easier thing to do to go 1 through 32. So with that being said, I got everything set up here on the PFF mock draft simulator. Before we get started, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to the channel and go check out all of our other amazing NFL content that we work so hard on, and we really appreciate all the love and support that we get from you guys. So let's get started into the Tennessee Titans with the first overall pick. Now, this is one that out of most of the draft picks, I'm not going to spend really any time on. Anybody that follows the draft knows that they need a quarterback, and that Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami, is the guy to go to. This is your 1-1 easy. It would be a complete and utter shock if anything else were to happen. So this feels like an obvious pick here. We're drafting Cam Ward to the Titans. Sorry, Will Levis, your time as a starter has come to a close. Now moving on, and this is one of my favorite parts of the NFL draft, is when we get into 2, 3, 4, 5, that early to mid top 10 picks where anything can truly happen. And that's why I am going to go with the best player available in Travis Hunter to the Cleveland Browns, wide receiver and corner from Colorado. And I think this is definitely, in my opinion, the best prospect in this draft. And not only because he plays 2 positions, which you rarely ever see. I mean, people in college do play multiple positions sometimes, but he starts at both positions and he plays it really well. I know people are like, well, is that going to translate into the NFL? Even if it somehow doesn't, whether it's corner or wide receiver, I am very confident he's going to be a very good player in one of those positions. So I know what you're saying. The Browns desperately need a quarterback. They need a lot of stuff. But at this point, I think the fact that they just re-signed Joe Flacco again, there's rumors that they still might go out and get Kirk Cousins. I just don't see at the number 2 spot them going all the way in on picking, let's say, Shedeur Sanders from Colorado. I think right now they need to just pick the best player available, and then if they do want a quarterback, maybe trade back into the first round, or since they have the second pick in the second round, they can go ahead and get Jackson Dart. I don't know. It's really tough for the Browns. Regardless, especially if they get like Kirk Cousins or something, Travis Hunter is going to be a phenomenal addition to the offense. All right, number 3. The New York Giants. Now, speaking of Shedeur Sanders, I've seen a lot of people mocking him to the Giants. But now that we have the additions of both Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson to the quarterback room, I just can't see that happening. At least 3rd overall, that's crazy. I would understand if it was just Jameis Winston and he was kind of your veteran presence where maybe he starts for the first half of the year and then you bring along Sanders for the second half. But the fact that they took in Russell Wilson too, which was shocking to me, I just cannot picture them getting another quarterback in there. So I'm going to go ahead and pick, once again, the next best player available, Abdul Carter, edge out of Penn State. That is a phenomenal pick for the Giants. And guys, I know this is going to sound like I'm exaggerating, but if the Giants do actually pick Abdul Carter, this might be the best defensive line in the past decade in the NFL. I mean, you have Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, and Brian Burns. Unbelievable. I mean, look, the Giants have so many holes on their team, and funny enough, defensive line is not one of them. But if you have Abdul Carter in the palm of your hands, you just have to take him. You have to, if you're not going to pick the quarterback. So, I mean, man, they might not do a lot of things well this upcoming season, but they're going to get to the quarterback, all right? That's what's going to happen. So, Abdul Carter, also a Penn State guy. I know a lot of Giants fans are also Penn State fans, so I'm sure they love Abdul Carter. Wouldn't be too pissed with this selection. Number 4 overall, we got the New England Patriots. Now, no quarterback, of course. They took Drake May last year, so we're going to go ahead and protect the quarterback with offensive tackle Will Campbell out of LSU. I believe he is the best tackle coming out of this class. Now, a really interesting thing with the 2025 draft class is that your most important positions in the NFL are kind of your weaker positions coming out of this class, aka quarterback, tackle, and then defensive end. So, do I love Will Campbell in a vacuum or comparing him to some of the better tackle classes such as last year? Maybe, but I think overall what you need to do for the Patriots, especially now that Travis Hunter is off the board, you just got to go ahead, protect Drake May. This is a guy who can really, really anchor this offensive line well. Great player out of LSU, so I'm happy with Will Campbell at 4 to the Patriots. All right, number 5 is Jacksonville. They can go a myriad of ways here. Honestly, I'm going to play it safe with their number 1 need, which is defensive tackle, and the fact that this guy is one of the best defensive players coming out of this draft. I'm going to go with Mason Graham out of Michigan. Look, I mean, it's the Jaguars. They could literally go out and pick anybody, and they'd probably better their team because they have so many holes. But you put them on the inside. You got Josh Hines-Allen and Travon Walker on the outsides. Kind of like the Giants, that now turns you into one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. And that's very important for a defense that was not very good last year. Oh, gosh. All right, so if you guys don't know, I am a Chiefs fan. So I'm trying to be as objective as possible and truly pick who I think is going to what team and not who I want to go to these teams. So this pains me to say it, but unfortunately, Ashton Jeanty, running back, Boise State, will go to the Las Vegas Raiders. This one really, really hurts. I'm going to have some stats here. Truly, truly one of the best running back prospects of the last 10 to 15 years coming out of college. This dude was insane last season. Just rushing yards, over 2,600 yards, 30 total touchdowns at only 5'9", but he is 215 pounds. So the dude is big, and he's got insane speed for his size. I have a hard time comparing him to an NFL player because he's got so many great attributes. I almost want to pick and choose from a few different players. I think he has great balance and stability, kind of like how Alvin Kamara does. He breaks tackles every single time he's touched. Has really, really good breakaway speed. He's got size, not in height, but it definitely, in width. Kind of a mixture of like a Derrick Henry with Alvin Kamara. I mean, he's just a phenomenal guy. If you don't follow college that often, I still really, really want you to go out on YouTube and just watch Ashton Jeanty 2024 highlights. The dude's really, really good. He's going to be great. And unfortunately, he's going to the Raiders. And listen, 5'9", 215 pounds. I mean, could I be a running back in the NFL? I don't know. Anyways, let's move on to the New York Jets. The Jets. So I think there's a few different ways the Jets could go in this draft. They could definitely add another offensive weapon, especially wide receivers, since Garrett Wilson is now entering his final year of his rookie contract. They definitely need a tight end, so you see Tyler Warren's out there in Penn State. But honestly, their offensive line was ranked 17th among PFF. I didn't love the Tyron Smith addition last year, and he didn't really do much, and now he's off the team again. I think they're going to have to go out and beef up the offensive line once again, especially Justin Fields. Fields, a guy who has dealt with a bad offensive line most of his career. In order to utilize Justin Fields perfectly with his skill set, he needs to choose when he's able to run, kind of like Lamar Jackson. I'm sick of watching Justin Fields' potential being wasted because the only time he has a highlight is when he's forced to go out and run away from his terrible protection, and he just can't really make a play he wants to unless it's with his legs. So I think protection is key. I'm going to go with Armand Membou. I hope I'm saying that right. Offensive tackle out of Missouri. So there you go. All right, let's move on to the Panthers at number 8. And speaking of wide receiver, I am going to go ahead and pick one for the Panthers, and that's going to be Tatoria McMillan, or Tet McMillan, I believe is his nickname. Out of Arizona, this dude is big. He is 6'4", 220 pounds. And I think with Bryce Young, listen, they do have a lot of needs as well. They invested a lot of money in their offensive line. But just in case it doesn't work out to the way they want to, and if Bryce Young is getting pressured and needs to just throw it up for a 50-50 ball, I think Tet McMillan can be a guy to come down with it. He's got such great size and speed for his size as well. Definitely, in my opinion, the second best wide receiver coming out of this draft. The Panthers really, really need to stack up their offense in order to add to the potential that Bryce Young has coming out of the second half of last year. This is a big season for the Panthers in that offense, so this would certainly help alongside of Adam Thielen and Xavier Legette. Number 9. Now, I know you guys have been wondering, all right, where is Shedeur Sanders gonna go? And I think if he does make it past the Saints, the Steelers have a really, really good shot all the way down. Let's see where they are. They're at 21. So if he makes it past the Saints, like, you're going to see a big drop from him. And there's going to be a little bit of drama on draft night with that, I think. Unless someone ends up trading up. And maybe the Steelers trade up in front of the Saints at one of these picks and snags him. But since there's no trades in this, I think the Saints are going to go ahead and pull the trigger and draft quarterback Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado. Now, if you guys don't know Shedeur Sanders, of course, he's Deion Sanders' son. Deion's the coach of Colorado. He was the starting quarterback last year. He had a very good season. Now, personally, I don't love this quarterback draft class in general. I don't think a lot of people do. And, you know, going out and watching Shedeur Sanders highlights, he obviously has good abilities and has potential, but I don't know. I don't know if I love him. So I know people are very, very excited to see him in the NFL. We'll see what happens, but the reason why I'm choosing him to go to the Saints is because Derek Carr might have season-ending shoulder surgery, which kind of came out of the blue about a week or so ago. So that's definitely alarming for the Saints. I think either way for the Saints, they were looking towards getting a quarterback sooner rather than later. So there you go. I'm going Shedeur Sanders to wear black and gold next season down in NOLA. And that's definitely going to be one of the more interesting prospects to watch this coming season. All right, number 10. Now, Bears fans who are watching were probably pissed that I picked Genty to the Raiders at, number 6? Yeah, so they were probably hoping to get Ashton Genty as their running back. And I'm here to answer the question, no, I'm not picking another running back here at 10. I'm going to go a little bit safer now with the Bears. They need an edge rusher. I'm going to go with Shemar Stewart, edge out of Texas A&M. I like Shemar Stewart. Last year, just reading some of their defensive stats, I know what you're thinking. Caleb Williams needs to improve this year, maybe get him another weapon. That's why we just mentioned running back. But they repaired their offensive line, and I think that Caleb Williams doesn't need too many weapons because as long as his offensive line is, I think all the star qualities of Caleb are going to show. So, going back defensively for the Bears, here's their stats last year. 27th in yards allowed, 16th in passing yards, 28th in rushing defense, and 13 points per game. Not terrible. Overall, I think what they're really missing now that they repaired the offensive front, they need to add another piece to the defensive front. So Shemar Stewart, the next best edge rusher out of the draft class, I'm going to the Bears at 10. Okay, number 11 is the San Francisco 49ers. I bet they weren't expecting to pick number 11 after being in the Super Bowl the year before, but here we are. They are definitely going through a rebuild right now, so they actually have a lot of holes to fill. Their starting cornerback right now is Renardo Green, so they definitely need to do something about that. I'm going to go ahead and pick who I clearly think is the best corner coming out of this draft. Out of Michigan, Will Johnson. You know, there's a lot of defensive options for them. They lost a ton of pieces. I know some people are thinking maybe wide receiver since Debo is gone, and who knows what's going on with Brandon Ayuk. I know he just got paid, but he's been kind of weird with the injuries and the off-the-field stuff. But either way, I think Will Johnson, very solid pick. Cowboys at number 12. Speaking of wide receiver, I think a lot of people are mocking them to get one to go alongside CeeDee Lamb, but I think the wide receiver draft class is deep enough where they can wait. Same with the running back draft class. So I'm actually not going to go offense for the Cowboys. I'm going to go ahead and flip it to the defensive line and pick edge Mike Green out of Marshall. I think with the Cowboys, a lot of people see them, especially with like Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland. They see them as a good defensive team, which they definitely have good pieces, but I went on PFF, and they ranked in the bottom half in every single defensive category. So to go with Micah Parsons, I think Mike Green is a very, very solid choice, although I would not be shocked at all if they went wide receiver or running back here. Dolphins at 13. I was kind of back and forth between the defensive line and the secondary for the Dolphins. I know they also need a guard. I went ahead and went with the best safety available, which is Malachi Starks out of Georgia. The Dolphins, once again, they're kind of one of those teams where, you just take what you're going to take, and it's most likely going to improve your team because there are some definite holes on this team. But I think overall, it's funny because the Dolphins' defense actually wasn't that bad last year. They ranked pretty high in some categories, but I really, really like Malachi Starks. I think he's for sure between picks 11 and 18, let's say. So I think the Dolphins are doing a good thing by adding a nice, solid piece to their secondary. Okay, the Colts are up. And I'm going to go ahead and add the first tight end to the board. Let's go with Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State. We got a lot of Penn Staters. And I mean, I'm sorry to one of my favorite players, Mo Alley Cox, but we got a new tight end in town. So listen. Tyler Warren, he's not switching uniforms, by the way. Blue and white, perfect for him. Listen, Tyler Warren he's up there for offensive prospects this year. The dude is really, really good. He does pretty much everything well, especially his route running and his football IQ. I like him a lot. I think that the Colts desperately need to add a weapon, especially if they're still going to hang on for dear life with Anthony Richardson. Please give him something. It might not be Tyler Warren's fault. Anthony Richardson might just be too inaccurate to get him the ball. But anyways, I think that the Colts need to help the weapons on this offense, and Tyler Warren is there to save the day. Who's at 15? We got the Falcons. The Falcons, I'm going to have them taking a linebacker, Jalen Walker out of Georgia. Now, Jalen Walker is a very interesting prospect because you go back like a month or two, and he might be a top 10, maybe even top 5, because I saw a lot of people mocking him to the Jaguars at 5. He's fallen a little bit. Also, I do think that linebacker in general is starting to be less valued overall as the years go on, so that also makes sense. And also, he's 6'1", 243, which is not terrible, but I know a lot of people are concerned about his size and also his pass coverage ability. But I think the fact that Matthew Judon left the Falcons this offseason, they need to add another piece, rather on the first level or the second level of their defense. I still really like Jalen Walker and think he has the potential of being a very good starter in the NFL. So there you go, Falcons. Added a defensive player. As we move halfway through the draft to 16, the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals need everything. I don't know. Somehow they went 8-9 last year. They don't need quarterback, and they probably don't need wide receiver, or running back. Other than that, or tight end, actually. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm sorry, Cardinals fans. You guys actually have a pretty decent offense. But overall, we're going to pick a defensive player, and we're going to go with another edge player, Michael, or maybe just Michael. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm going to go Michael Williams, edge out of Georgia. I mean, you just look at their defensive line, the Cardinals, and they got nothing. I know Calais Campbell is coming back for one last season, but the dude's like 40 years old, so they definitely need some youth and some speed on the defensive line. So there you go. I'm going to go ahead and pick an edge for the Cardinals. As we move to the Cincinnati Bengals at 17. Now, I'm sure my dad's going to watch this at some point. He has been talking to me all offseason about how frustrated he is with the way the team is handling the interior of the offensive line. And Dad, if you're watching, I'm sorry to say it, I'm still not going to go ahead and pick an interior offensive lineman. At least in the first round, you could definitely get one on the second day. Regardless of what happens with Trey Hendrickson or whoever else is on your defensive line, you still need to add another piece to that roster. So I'm going to go ahead and get you guys Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon. He's 6'4", 313 pounds. I would say if there's one negative, he kind of lacks agility a little bit, but he's got tons of strength, and he could really use his hands well in terms of pass rushing. So I think overall, to pair him with a BJ Hill or whoever else is going to be inside, I think that's another solid addition to your defensive line that, look, I mean, everybody knows it. The reason why the Bengals didn't make the playoffs last year is their defense. So you got to add one of these defensive pieces, whether it's still at edge, defensive tackle, safety. So I think even though a lot of people are still clamoring for the Bengals to get an offensive lineman, I'm going with Derek Harmon. I think he's the best defensive tackle available. All right, Seahawks at 18. I think the Seahawks, they've had a weird offseason where it seemed like they were tearing it all down, but then they also added Sam Darnold and paid him a lot of money, so maybe they're still trying to compete somewhat. But overall, I think, now that you got Sam Darnold, you've got to beef up a little bit more of that offensive line. So I'm going to go with guard, which I do believe is their number one need, left guard specifically. And I'm going to go with the best guard available, which is Tyler Booker out of Alabama. I think that regardless of where the Seahawks end up this season, I think getting Tyler Booker on a rookie contract for 4 years is a really, really nice addition to the interior offensive line. The Bucks at 19, I am going to go with a cornerback out of Texas, which is Jahdae Barron. I believe I'm saying that right. And just another guy who can add to the depth of that cornerback room. I know you guys got Carlton Davis. I like your safeties, Antoine Winfield, of course. I think with the Bucks offense, they're pretty much set for the most part. They could definitely add some depth here and there in the later rounds, but overall, I think you're adding to that defensive backfield that only ranked 29th in passing defense last year. So you add a guy in Barron, I think that's going to do you guys a lot of good. All right, we head into the 20s with the Denver Broncos to start it off. Kind of like with Ashton Jeanty, this is going to be a running back who I really, really like, and I hope I'm wrong, but once again, I'm being objective here, and this is who I think is going to go to the Broncos, so unfortunately, they're going to get a really, really nice piece to add to this arsenal. It's going to be Omarion Hampton, running back out of North Carolina. Now, this is a deep running back class, so I actually wouldn't even be shocked if Hampton went earlier, and maybe the Broncos end up getting like a Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. If there's one glaring need to help Bo Nix, it's to have a run game, because they have just been non-existent in the running game since like 2019 Philip Lindsay. That was the last time they were relevant, basically, in the run game. So I really, really like Omarion Hampton. This dude, if you just go watch his highlights, like just shades of like Jahmyr Gibbs, really, really good, talented, speedy, and he's big too. That's the thing with Omarion Hampton. He's got insane speed for his size, 5'11", 221. 221 as a running back. So this dude is going to be a force to be reckoned with, and I just hope somehow the Chiefs defense can shut him down a little bit. All right, the Steelers at 21. Now, I'm disclaimering it right now. I don't like the mock drafts that say they're getting Jackson Dart. Enough with Jackson Dart. I'm sorry, I understand if you have a glaring need at quarterback, you're going to want to reach and just get somebody and feel secure that way, but this is not the dude to do it to. You already f***ed up with Kenny Pickett in 2022. Just stack up more of your defense. I'm not picking Jackson Dart, nor am I picking any quarterback for the rest of this draft in the first round. So, and they're probably going to end up getting Aaron Rodgers anyways, but I understand why they would pick Dart or Sanders, because they still need a young guy who's going to come in after that. Anyways, I don't think this is the draft class to do it. So with that being said, I am going to go with defensive tackle Walter Nolan. This one hurts as a Chiefs fan. I am secretly hoping that Walter Nolan falls all the way down to 31. I think that dude's a beast. He would be awesome next to Chris Jones on the defensive line. This is a really, really good pick if they get him, because I know they have Cam Hayward on their defensive line, but the dude, kind of like Calais Campbell, is like 40 years old. So to finally get some young depth in there next to Hayward, to learn from Hayward as well, I think that's really, really, really going to help the Steelers defense, which is already a pretty solid unit. So I like Walter Nolan at 21 as we move to 22, which is the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, you know what? Let's just continue the trend of me giving our AFC West rivals good offensive weapons, because we're going to go with Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of Texas. He's 5'11", 191. I know that you already have Ladd McConkey, but I don't know. I really, really like this guy, and I think regardless, when you add an offensive weapon with that much potential, Jim Harbaugh is probably going to make the most of it. So you could go maybe tight end here if you're the Chargers, but I think when you look back at the Chargers last season, I know they made the playoffs and they had a pretty decent year with Jim Harbaugh, but if you really go back and watch their highlights, their offense struggled a lot at times. And I think even running back could be decent here, even though they just got Najee Harris. But overall, I'm going to give Justin Herbert another weapon alongside Ladd McConkey with Matthew Golden. All right, 23 is the Packers. The Packers are an interesting one because you can go wide receiver maybe. I know a lot of fans aren't satisfied with the fact that all of their wide receivers are pretty much wide receivers 2 and 3s, but I don't know. I guess I'm just going to keep hammering this point. There's a lot of depth, so I'm going to wait, and I'm going to flip to the defensive side of the ball. I know maybe Packers fans don't want to hear that, or maybe they do. Overall, I'm going to go with edge Donovan, hopefully I say this right, Ezeuruaku? Maybe it's that. Sorry, comment down below if I'm saying it wrong, but out of Boston College. He's an edge. I think overall, the Packers just got to beef up that defensive line alongside of Rashawn Gary at edge. And I think regardless, this is a really, really solid pick to hopefully help bolster the Packers from being a solid defensive unit to a top 10, maybe even top 5 one day. We got the Vikings. The Vikings at 24. I don't know why I did that accent, but here we go. Even though they had a great season and a great offseason, I think there are a lot of players that can add to their defense, which is why I'm going to go ahead and pick offense. I mean, listen. They did a lot of good things for their defense. They're going to pick tons of defense in this draft, but I can't help but think that J.J. McCarthy needs a little more help on that offensive line. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pick a guy who, for whatever reason, his name perfectly suits a team named the Vikings. And I'm going to go with offensive guard out of North Dakota State, Gray Zabel. Dude just sounds like he's going to be great. It's kind of like when the Chiefs pick Creed Humphrey. You're like, okay, your name is Creed. You're going to be a good offensive lineman regardless of what's happening. So I like the pick a lot. They definitely need a guard. I wouldn't be shocked if they picked defense, of course, but I like Gray Zabel to the Vikings, so I'm going to pick them. 25 is the Texans. Now, I know you guys are thinking, is Kelvin Banks still there? Offensive tackle out of Texas. Well, it's kind of the way the draft board falls sometimes. So, man, after the debacle the Texans had of somehow getting rid of Laramie Tunsil at their left tackle position, are they lucky to somehow have Kelvin Banks fall into their lap at 25. So there you go, Texans fans. I'm gonna give you something there. He's a great athlete. The only thing with this offensive line tackle class is that their arm lengths are all pretty short, which usually doesn't translate great for an NFL tackle. More guard, but overall, it's still a glaring need for the Texans. So even though this draft class is a little weaker, maybe Kelvin Banks is okay. He's not going to be Tunsil. You still got to pick them. So Kelvin Banks at 25. All right, we're getting to the home stretch here with the Los Angeles Rams at 26. Another guy who I think if they fall into their lap, this is a great pick for their offense. I am going tight end out of Michigan, Colston Loveland. I think him or Warren would be great if either of them fell. I mean, the Rams already have a very, very good offense, but look, Higbee's fine. He's been a veteran. He's been there for a while. He's reliable. But they need someone with a little more juice, who's younger, who can actually turn into a star. And I think Colston Loveland out of Michigan has that potential. So another weapon to add to the arsenal for Sean McVay is pretty scary. So I really, really like this pick if they go with Colston Loveland. And then at 27, man, oh man, do the Ravens love to do this, which is have just really, really solid defensive players fall to them. And picking one of the best players available. So I'm going to go ahead and give them edge out of Tennessee, James Pierce Jr. I know their defense has a really, 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 really good secondary and linebackers, but you look at the Ravens and they haven't really had a phenomenal pass rush the last couple of years. I know they have Madubuike, which is why pairing him with James Pierce, I think, will now finally get them back to that place they've always wanted their defensive line to be at. So I really, really like James Pierce going to 27 for the Ravens. Okay, 28. I know they need edge, but this just feels like such a Lions pick. And I'm going to go with linebacker Jahad Campbell out of Alabama. The dude is fierce. The dude is fast. This dude has a great pass rushing presence, so it still helps with the edge regardless if he's playing linebacker or not. And I don't know, it just seems like a Dan Campbell pick. I mean, hell, he's got the same last name as him as well. So I know people want someone like right on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson, but overall, Jahad Campbell, this dude's a baller, and he's the second best linebacker in this draft class. So I think either way, this guy's going to be a starter, and he just seems like he's going to add to the juice of this defense. The Commanders at 29. Maybe a shocking position that people aren't going to expect here, but I'm going to go with wide receiver. And, oh man, I believe this is the last name on this list that I might screw up. I'm sorry. I think you say it like this. Emeka Egbuka. I think that's how you say his name. Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State, wide receiver. They just got Deebo Samuel, but the dude's old, and he's a gadget player at this point. Yes, Terry McLaurin's going to be awesome. If you could put Egbuka on the other side of Terry McLaurin to add for Jaden Daniels when they already just added Laramie Tunsil as their left tackle and bolster their defense, I mean, man, they're going to be the team to pick to compete with the Eagles next season. I like this pick a lot. This guy's good. So there you go. I mean, Commanders fans, if you're watching, comment down below if you like that pick. I think you need one more really good weapon to spice off the offense. All right, the final three picks. We got the Buffalo Bills at 30. For me, hands down, their number one need is secondary. It was one of the worst parts of their team all of last season. I was between corner and safety, or let me just say more specifically, corner out of Ole Miss, Trey Amos. I'm not going to go with him, however, because I'm sorry, but Damar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp aren't going to cut it at safety. So I'm going to go with a guy who I think is better than Trey Amos in the secondary, which is safety out of South Carolina, Nick Amonwori. I believe that's also how you say his last name. Yeah, I just think overall, like, you can't continue to have dudes in the AFC, such as Mahomes and Lamar and Joe Burrow, lighting up the secondary, because it's only forcing your offense to try and keep up all these games, and you just need someone to help shut down that secondary. So hopefully Amonwori out of South Carolina would help that. Gotten to the pick we've all been waiting for, number 31, the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, okay, funny enough, I was between three guys. And funny enough, I wrote down two because I need to talk this out. I'm trying to figure out if we do put up a graphic, let's say on social media, of what my full mock draft is. Who am I really going to pick? And who am I going to really pick on this website? Now, I have the guy who I truly do think the Chiefs are more likely to pick, which just, in my head, doesn't make sense, which is Josh Simmons, tackle out of Ohio State. But, man, would I like to add a weapon to the offense. So, other than Josh Simmons, I am between Luther Burden, wide receiver out of Missouri, and TreVeyon Henderson, running back out of Ohio State. Now, I'm not going to pick TreVeyon Henderson, even though that would be pretty fun, because one, he's borderline first-round pick, and two, I just can't see, after Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the Chiefs picking a running back in the first round again. I just don't see it happening. Plus, there's so much depth. They'll do it later on. But man, with Luther Burden, it's another one where I also probably don't see them picking a wide receiver, but man, would it be fun to have him on the team. Which sucks to say, because I am going to end up picking Josh Simmons on here. It's stupid. I've seen so many mock drafts where he's going to the Chiefs. I get it. People are saying with us signing Jalen Moore as our left tackle, it's technically a one-year deal, and if Josh Simmons comes in and gets healthier, he can come in and be a really great starter. Hey, if all that happens, that's amazing. But if you're at pick 31, you need a guy that's going to come in and make an impact immediately. I'm sick of these picks that you're just trying to work on him for a season or two and then maybe become a decent starter. I'm sick of that. Now, obviously, before his injury, which, by the way, was a patella injury, it's not like some turf toe or some shit. Like, it's a serious injury. He only played 6 games last season for Ohio State. You know, if he comes back and plays the way he did before then yeah, he's one of the best tackles out of the class for sure, and he'd be a great addition. Or maybe he'll replace Jawan Taylor in 2026. But man, if this doesn't work out and they really do pick this guy, I'm gonna be very upset. You know, I didn't even mention defensive tackle. That's another one too. I think what is his name? Kenneth Grant is another great pick out of Michigan. So I could see them doing that. I obviously mentioned earlier how I wanted Walter Nolan on the team. I'm hoping that it's not Josh Simmons. So we'll see. He also has short arms, which I don't love. It'd be weird to have a guy who, one, you spent this money on getting a new left tackle this offseason, and then you're going to go ahead and at 31 pick a guy who's most likely not going to start, who has off-the-field issues. I didn't even mention that. And then also is coming back from injury. I don't know. But I'm still going to go ahead and pick it because that's what I think is probably going to happen. So yeah, what I'm really hoping for, though, is Luther Burden out of Missouri or a defensive tackle. So let's hope that happens. But I went Josh Simmons. All right, 32, final pick in the draft. The Philadelphia Eagles, they have the luxury of picking whoever the best player available is to fit their scheme. And funny enough, even though everybody knows their defensive line is great, they actually do need an edge rusher, especially with Brandon Graham finally retiring. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Nick Scourton, edge out of Texas A&M, to round out that great defensive line that they have. I can't believe they're adding another piece to that defense, but man, that's what happens when, you know, Howie Roseman and the team puts together one of the best rosters in recent memory. And yeah, the Eagles are going to go ahead and make a push for another Super Bowl. So Nick Scourton, that's a great addition for them. And there you go. As you see on the screen, 1 through 32, we got our mock draft officially set. No trades, but I think overall, I'm hoping to get around, maybe 5 players right, somewhere around there. So we'll see what happens. Comment down below what you guys think about this mock draft. Comment down below what your favorite team is going to pick in the first round. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the NFL draft. We'll be back with a recap of the first round of the draft afterwards. And guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us at First and Gold on TikTok and Instagram. I'm Sam Gold. We'll see you guys for another video. Goodbye.